Hey everyone, James here from TDB, bringing you another in-between episode. Today I am going to bring on another tea I'm about to finish, but it is not a ripe, so we will not be brewing with this, but we'll be still brewing with a rather large guy one that is rarely seen, especially on in-between episodes. Usually I'll use something smaller, and the reason is it's one of my more casual teas, so I wanted to feature it in that way, and also just talk a little bit about what makes kind of a good daily drinker, which is kind of the category that I would put this tea into. So I think daily drinkers are going to inherently vary person to person, and I've featured a couple in the past that I like to bring on, and quite a few over the amount of years. But I think recently I did some of the tea home teas, which are just great because they're very functional teas, and they represent a certain profile decently well, while being very inexpensive. And I think the cost part of it is very, very important for daily drinkers, unless you are someone that is operating with just a really big budget and is okay spending like $1 a gram on daily drinker tea. For me, that's not myself. So cost is important. And one tea that's really difficult to fit into sort of the cost paradigm for whatever the right word is for daily drinkers is Wuyi oolongs, which tend to be on the pricier side. And that's a problem because I really like Wuyi oolongs. I think it's perhaps, it's very close to my favorite category of tea. It's easily my favorite type of oolong tea. So I really, really like Wuyi oolongs, but they tend to be very pricey. And I think places like Wuyi Origin, Old Ways Tea, these are very good places, or Lazy Cat Tea. Those are all good places to get it, but to get stuff that I would like on the daily basis, it's too expensive. It's like 50 cents a gram, it's 60 cents a gram. And that's doable for now and then, but for something like truly kind of disposable, I think you prefer it to be a little bit cheaper. And so this is actually coming from a vendor from Singapore, Choon, which actually does ship to the US. I know because they shipped it to me maybe about a year ago. And so I've been slowly drinking through their teas. They tend to be kind of more casual teas during the weekends. For me, my normal regular daily drinkers are ripe. That's kind of by default. But sometimes you want something a little different. Sometimes you want kind of that more roasty, Wuyi oolong taste. One category thing that is particularly important for myself and daily drinkers, and one reason why the tea home teas, why I like them, are not super, super regular, like they're not every other day or anything like that, is that I tend to like my teas a little darker and smoother. So kind of that base floral thing, it's just going to be making it into my cup every now and then. And I find that taste preference is actually echoed by my wife. My wife prefers darker teas in general, so usually I'll even brew something like the Shan Li Shi from Tea Home, and she'll be like, why are we drinking this? So this is a great tea to serve to her, as well as to someone like me, who I know is a big fan of Wuyi oolongs. But yeah, you don't want to be whipping out like $2 a gram stuff when you're just gonna like hang out casually and not really pay super close attention to the tea in that way. So sorry, meat, but something like this is perfect for you because you can stack a bunch of brews and it doesn't feel like you're wasting tea. So another thing is this tea is, for something that's inexpensive, it doesn't last forever either, which I think is totally fine. So boiled some water here. I'm making steep number 2 here, and here is the first steep. And because it's a Wuyi oolong, probably generally just going to keep its steeps fairly short. Part of that is because it's not compressed, it's not rolled. And you can see we get this nice dark big brew right here. Using 6 grams, 120 milliliters, a little bit less than my normal ratio. Wuyi oolongs, I often like them stuffed to the brim, but it's a casual work day. I don't want to get over caffeinated or anything like that. So, I mean, daily drinkers, drink them how you like them, and you can be flexible in how you're brewing them. I think those are important things for me. And just this is something that you can drink without. It's not too demanding. It's something that will just kind of I don't know. It's an easy brew. You don't have to think too hard about it. Cheers. Yeah, a little minerally. I think I may have overbrewed that one just a little bit. The body is quite robust, but there's a little bit less sweetness in there than I like. I like to get a little bit of sweetness to it. I don't like it when they tend to get too bitter. And sort of similar to those death roast teas that we brought on to the main episodes a couple times, this sort of tea is just kind of like the old school type of oolong that's made for very Chinese-speaking people in Singapore, basically. So made for the locals, and kind of probably, I'd imagine, a bit of an old man tea out there. I don't know for sure, but that'd be my guess. So yeah, it's a very just full taste. It doesn't taste, it's not going to blow your socks off or anything like that, but it's minerally. There's sweetness there. You get some aroma. It's pretty on the dark end, as you can tell. You're not going to be picking up on crazy notes like you would like very boutique-y type Wuyi oolongs, and I think that's fine too. Kind of leaves a vague sweetness on the mouth. The aftertaste is not terribly interesting, but it's fine. The basic profile of this, I think, is mostly what you're drinking for, so kind of just those basic flavors. And I know this is like slightly overbrewed just because it is slightly sour and not quite as sweet as I prefer. So I'm going to do just one more brew real fast. Probably just going to give this a little bit shorter of a steep. And I did not reboil that water, so still brews nice and dark. All right. And for me, this is probably one of my more favorite teas that I've tried from Choon. And I think part of that is just because I do go for this darker profile. They have a couple teas that aren't they're definitely not high mountain green oolongs or anything like that, but they are a little bit greener, a little bit more towards that floral end. And I think I just prefer kind of this Wuyi profile as opposed to something greener, like, I don't know, like Tiaguanin or something like that, which sometimes can get a little on the green end for me. Cheers. Yeah, I'll wait for that to cool down. So let me know what your kind of regular daily drinkers are. I'm really curious to hear if everyone kind of gravitates more towards those smooth, inexpensive brews like myself, or if other people actually do like to drink kind of more of those, in my opinion, a little bit more demanding and a little bit more stomach churning, greener flavors. I think Denny, for instance, probably strongly prefers those greener flavors in general. I would guess he is more like a Taiwanese oolong plus ripe sort of person, whereas I am like Taiwanese oolong only occasionally, and then something like this and ripe would probably be my main dominant brews. And this one is nice too because there's all kinds of ripe out there. It's easy to find drinkable ripe, in my opinion, just by a die numbered recipe. It's a very reliable bet. But to find inexpensive Wuyi that's like decent enough to kind of drink on the regular, it's hard. I'm not gonna say this is like amazing or anything like that, but it's perfectly functional. I don't know if I said the cost either, but $19, 150 grams. I do remember the shipping being a bit pricey, so something else to keep in mind. But in the end, pretty inexpensive tea. Okay, yeah, so this brew is more what I was after. So yeah, it just kind of balances that nice sweetness to it. There's only just a slight hint of tang to this too. Does it taste like Wuyi? I would say mostly it does taste like kind of that basic Wuyi roasted oolong profile. And smooth. So yeah, just a very easygoing tea. So I think that pretty much wraps up this in-between episode. If you've had any experience with Choon, I'd also be curious to hear about that. Let me know how you like this episode, and I will see you all next time. Cheers.